Hey, everybody. I believe we're live. This is Laura Eisenhower. I'm here today with a very special guest and a wonderful friend, Rebecca Rose. I've interviewed her a few times. She's got an unbelievable story, and we're just going to really just jump into some very intense topics. I'm going to kind of do what I've been doing in the last few interviews where this is kind of the shorter version. We're going to go about 20, 30 minutes to get the more in-depth interview. I'll send links where you can find it, where we can just say whatever we want and not worry about censorship. And so you can find that on the Conscious Vitality platform. It probably won't air for a week or two, but I'll get all that information in the description so that you know where to find the more in-depth interview. First, I want to thank you for being here with me, Rebecca. Before I read your bio, I just want to thank you for joining me
Yeah,
today.
I'm so glad we can connect again. Yeah, I love talking to you. So
Yeah, me too. All right, so I'm just gonna just share a few words about Rebecca. Rebecca Rose is a multidimensional galactic experiencer working as an energy intuitive, seer, and channel. As a lifelong abductee, she was taken to work in dark government programs as a child, a path that was facilitated by family members working in deep state black ops. After initial Milab and trauma-based mind control, she was used in various projects, including the Dulce Hybridization Lab, off-world weapons testing and interspecies battle, genetic harvest, time experiments, as and as a mind-to-mind interface gathering intel from various extraterrestrial races. She was first sent to the moon and later to Mars, where she was developed into a cyborg clone and weaponized asset. Her service continued in the outer reaches of the solar system on planet X, where she was owned by the Draco. Whoa, right?
yeah,
So there's a little bit more to read about her. I'm going to put it in the description so you
that's
can read
good.
bio, but I'll kind of leave it at that. And obviously, okay, where you are today is very different than where you were then, and you've gone on quite the healing journey. And we want to kind of bring things into the here and now, and to help people navigate these times. And we'll do that. But let's kind of start with the brief kind of timeline, and how the memory kind of retrieval worked for you.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's kind of two segments there, and this is all from my childhood, and so we're talking 40 years ago or more. I was taken when I was 9 to a time and back, like a 20 and back. It felt like longer than that, but in any case, that was the big stint. I was being taken out to Mars at age 9, and prior to that, I had been involved in multiple other programs with the Greys and with being taken to the Dark Fleet base on the moon. And also my godfather using me who worked with my father. They both worked at Lockheed Martin in black projects together. And my godfather was taking me to deep state child pedophilia, pornography events when I was very small. And this was all kind of leading up into being taken to Mars. So there was a lot happening there. So that's like the soundbite of what occurred. A really small, outline there.
Yeah, and I know it's a lot for people to process.
Yes.
If they're new to this kind of topic.
Totally. And I totally get it if people are ever like, wow, that sounds so crazy. I'm like, I think that all the time. Like, am I up here talking publicly about this?
Right? Crazy. I mean, and it's incredible that this is even possible because they don't expect memory retrieval to happen. And when memory retrieval happens and you gain knowledge of the things that happened to you, then you are in a sense able to kind of break free from it? Or do you feel like they're kind of trying to yank you back in? Or what do you kind of deal with now?
Right.
The public, like what
that's a great question.
Everyday kind of life like now?
Yeah, my memory started coming back in 2012. I was hit by a car and I had a concussion. I was out on a road bike ride, and my head was split open. And after that, I was in really bad shape, but I think it was when all of the memory matter started shaking loose in the compartments in my brain that were really kind of shut off and shut down. So I went through quite an awful period after that for, a couple of years, until I found a spiritual practice and meditation and started to really stabilize my experience. So that's when, a long journey unfolded there for me with memory retrieval and really putting eyes wide open to things that were in my childhood from the very beginning that I never really saw. right? Like getting clear about what was in plain sight. Now I would say I have changed so much, and all of this going into this really dark, horrible material. I mean, you think it'd be the last thing you want to do that would elevate your life, but it's changed everything for the better, even though, I mean, it's kind of, I think there's some risk in coming out and talking publicly. Of course there is, certainly to one's reputation. I mean, my God, I've lost a lot of people along this journey, but I've also gained other people. But it's gotten my life back together. I'm so much better than ever. Yeah. So
Right. And I just have to say, we are going to be at the Secret Space Conference together in May, and I will share those links. So if you guys can come join us in person, that would be awesome. Right. So here you are, public, and you've retrieved a lot of memories. You've become acquainted with other people that have been in similar programs and projects like Tony Rodriguez, right? And that kind of like helps to connect the dots or kind of figure out what the larger picture of this agenda is. Can you help us to understand like in the here and now, how this secret space program is like kind of operating through this like big narrative that's being steered of like New World Order? Like, how does this secret space program and all that relate to what we're seeing on the world stage, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, well, it's an underpinning of the whole control mechanism. We know that. And I think it's changed over time. And I don't claim to know all the details I'm kind of researching that, like what was going on for me in the 70s versus the 80s and 90s. And now people are still being taken, but I think their devices have changed. And I do feel like things are shifting as far as what is the secret space program about now? I think their techniques are different, and I don't claim to know, like I said, all of that, but it's always been, as you said, about the New World Order and domination and control of the human population. I mean, I had a Draco on the moon say to me once, "Here we have everything we need to create the perfect human," and it's a mind-controlled slave.
So it's like taking the DNA, the genetic material, and through the trauma-based mind control programs and the trauma of like the pedophilia aspect of it, that you're able to create these alters and compartments in a human to weaponize them. And you were a weapon.
Weaponizing humanity is a good way to put it. Yeah, changing,
right.
like you said. Yeah. It can be more subtle than that. More of the programming and the conditioning of society and leading us, far off the path of our own sovereignty. Yeah.
Would you say that these experiments and the things that were done to you is how they learn how to do it to a mass population? This is the more concentrated version of how to weaponize.
Yeah, this is like,
and now they're trying to do it to the whole human race, like with the technologies like 5G and the,
yes.
To have a hive mind enslaved society is not just depopulation, it's also the hive mind kind of thing. It's like, is it like both that they're attempting? Depopulation and also a hive mind kind of thing? Or
definitely hive mind and a population that can be controlled. I don't know that they want to depopulate. If they can control more people, they have more drones to operate and work for them, so to speak.
There will be some casualties, obviously, because of how people react, but that's not necessarily like the main goal. But we see in Georgia guidestones or whatever, like get the population down to a certain amount,
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
But so they're trying to do similar to the human race, as they've been able to figure out how to weaponize like people like yourself from childhood.
Yeah, to take it, I mean, like I said, that was like the 10. We were like the very extreme superlative experiment. And yeah, then learning, I've always felt through all of the programs that I was vetted into that it was so much about experimentation, research and development, and learning what worked and learning what didn't. They need to have a sort of a population they could do that with. And of course they can get away with things in space that they can't do here on Earth.
And time is very different, of course. I mean, if you can do a 20 and back and kind of wake up like nothing happened, but you just served 20 years. I mean, that's really wild. So, I mean, we're going to go real deep, you guys. In the next segment, we're going to talk about Milab and the family. We're going to talk about Draco related to your family history, the moon, Dark Fleet, Planet X, and more about Planet X. Also the spiritual nature of indigenous Martian races, and also Mantid Labyrinth on Mars and its connection to the okay, to tell us a little bit
Göbekli Tepe, yeah.
ancient creator architect, right? We're going to get into that in the next segment, and Milab twinning, crafts, piloting, women in space programs, and life after the programs, which we, touched upon a little bit. But before we close this segment, and I just kind of like ran down the list of things we're going to dive deeper into, do you want to just like share a little bit about some of those things, like for example, Mantid Labyrinth on Mars? Can you just give us like a little bit on that before we go deeper in the next?
Yeah, the soundbite on that is that when I was on patrol there on Mars for the bases, I and a small team were tasked over and over again to go into the labyrinth there. I call it a labyrinth. You might call it caves. But what I learned and what I remember from the underground domicile of the mantids was that it was very upper dimensional. It had like a crystalline componentry to it. And I can see that it wasn't built by them originally, even though they've been there forever. Anyway, it formed a kind of frequency fence around where the mantids were living and doing what they do. And it protected them, but it was dangerous to us. And we were trying to figure out how to understand the technology, replicate the technology, and diffuse the technology so we could co-opt them. So.
Okay, well, I want to end on a positive note. I know it's a lot for people to process, and sometimes it can generate a bit of anxiety or a bit of fear, or like what we're dealing with is so much bigger than we can begin to imagine, which makes one feel like not a whole lot of like control, like over their own lives. But as we know, that's really not the case when we talk about human sovereignty. Can you kind of like...
Yes.
Your healing path, like if people like you are able to recover your memories and overcome a lot of these different tactics and the cyborg part of it, right? And still maintain your soul connection, like what can you share with humanity as a message of hope about like what we can do in these times in order to protect ourselves and maintain a strong connection with our own creative abilities to manifest a better future than the one they want to give us?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I always tell people humans are super resilient. If I could live and still be, surviving and actually thriving here after all of that, we can do this. I mean, I'm a probably kind of extreme example. So it's possible. I mean, I came through dark hell realms on the way to this place now. But I think for me, experientially, I would say what's worked best in reclaiming my life is working with my own energy field and my meditation practice and really expanding my consciousness. That we will always own. They can come and kill me, but they can't take my consciousness. They can't steal that forever from a sovereign being that belongs to source. So that's always going to be true. That's irrefutable and indivisible. So working with the energetic protection, I do this with my clients too, is like, remember your energy field and how that's connected to the chakras, to the divinity above in the cosmos, and deep into the earth and also to the heart. I know it may sound trite, but for me, doing a lot of compassion practice with the heart space has opened up a lot of protection for me. A lot of times we write off, what is the heart? What is compassion? Who cares? We're living up here in the head, but that actually does a lot to stabilize and ground us and keep us aware of the bigger picture and not the storyline and the narrative we've been fed for so many millennia.
Right. And those that were I guess the controllers, the handlers, the individuals in alliance with Draco, right? That pulled you into this kind of stuff. They were trying to keep you from all this. I mean, they wanted to use the human for themselves as a weapon, with the expectation that you wouldn't come back to the soul and back to the heart and be
absolutely
able to heal.
absolutely
So this is such a huge victory, and this is the good news I think that we should embrace as a humanity. This is the real leadership here, is that that light source, that divinity is stronger. And
there's so many more people that are coming forward with, I mean, there's a massive movement of people who are like, waking up to this and starting to get their memories back, and also to begin speaking about it, even if only to themselves and perhaps not publicly. There's a massive wave of this going on right now. Everybody who's doing that is writing the timeline and writing. There's so much light in this. And I actually feel, Laura, that I really signed up for this. That will sound crazy to lots of people, but from the perspective of my soul, I always say that I had to go down into the belly of the darkest beast to really get my power back over lifetimes. Like this was a big mission, and there's a bigger picture to it. So
is incredible. Your strength and light and all that you're doing for people in the here and now is just incredible. So I hope you guys will join us for part 2. We're going to dig a lot deeper and gain a greater understanding of secret space programs and what Rebecca's journey has been all about. So thank you so much for joining me, Rebecca. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And give it a couple hours. I'll put all the links in the description and where to find part 2. Okay. Thanks everybody. See you soon.